Tonight, major disruption as junior doctors start a 3-day strike. Londoners are left in limbo as thousands of operations are cancelled, with many left not knowing when they'll be rescheduled.
It's been over 2 years. I'm absolutely gutted, I'm fuming.
Also ahead, another day, another plan to restore confidence in the Met. The Force introduces a new vetting process to root out the bad apples. We're live at London Football Awards, where West Ham legend Carlton Cole will be giving us his take on the Gary Lineker scandal and... Ring for the King. Could you learn this centuries-old skill and be part of the coronation in May? Good evening. It's predicted to be the most disruptive industrial action the NHS has ever seen. A 3-day walkout by junior doctors is now underway. The medics make up nearly half of the capital's workforce, meaning thousands of Londoners have had elective operations and routine appointments cancelled or postponed. Some have been waiting for years for treatment. But with the government saying doctors' demands for a 35% pay rise is unaffordable, there's no resolution in sight. Sam Holder reports.
As a former football scout for Charlton Athletic, John was always on his feet. Now he struggles to get in and out of his home, caused by painful complications from arthritis. After 2 years of waiting, an operation was scheduled for this week. Last week, he was told it was cancelled due to the junior doctor strike. He has no idea when it will be rescheduled.
And what have they said will happen if you don't have the operation?
Well, eventually I'll lose my toes. I'm absolutely gutted, I'm fuming.
What do we want? At some London hospitals, half of staff are junior doctors. They range from newly qualified to some who've been in the role for a decade. The strike has led to widespread cancellations of non-urgent operations. The junior doctors want a 35% pay rise. Some earn the equivalent currently of £14 an hour.
Every day it's tough because we give everything to the profession. We try our very best for our patients, but when we're devalued to the extent that some people, we can't turn on our heating. There's various doctors who can't pay their rent. They're in their various overdrafts.
Sarah has seen colleagues move abroad for better pay, and doctors leave the medical profession altogether. I asked her if she'd been tempted to quit.
Yeah, it's a real struggle, and it's difficult now as a parent with 2 kids. The cost of childcare and the cost of living in London just makes it really difficult. My husband also works for the NHS, and so it's hard to make ends meet.
The government say such a big pay rise is unrealistic.
35% as a demand is not affordable. We've offered to engage in constructive talks with the junior doctors. We stand ready to have those discussions, and I urge them to come and engage with us on that.
Junior doctors earn 26% less in real terms than they did in 2008, according to the BMA. Unlike the nurse strikes and the ambulance driver strikes, junior doctors will not return to the ward for emergencies. Instead, at hospitals across the capital, like the Royal Free, consultants and specialists are filling in. It's having a knock-on effect on surgeries and other planned procedures.
Here I have a lump.
With another 2 days of strikes, there'll be many left like John, wondering when they'll get the treatment they need. Sam Holder, ITV News.
We'll be talking to a former junior doctor a little later in the programme, and the strikes across the country will dominate the ITV evening news at 6:30 as well. But next tonight, Samuel Howes was 17 years old when he died after being struck by a train in Croydon. He had a history of poor mental health, including depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, anorexia and addiction. Today, his mother told an inquest he'd been let down by mental health services, who weren't as worried about him as she was. Helen Keenan was in court.
Just 1 month before his 18th birthday, Samuel Howes lost his life. he had a history of mental ill health. His mother, seen here on the left, arrived at Croydon Coroner's Court this morning for his inquest. The family have serious questions about the care he received leading up to his death. On the 30th of August 2020, Samuel was arrested. He was held in custody and received no medical attention despite reported attempts of self-harm. The following evening, Samuel was recorded as a missing person. The next morning, Samuel called the London Ambulance Service expressing suicidal thoughts. Police went to the address, but Samuel wasn't there and wasn't escalated from medium risk to high risk, meaning hours later he died after being struck by a train at South Croydon Station. Suzanne Howes told the jury here at Croydon Coroner's Court how the last 5 months of Samuel's life had been chaos. He'd returned to self-harming, even taking a bread knife to his face. Samuel had been diagnosed with a conduct disorder rooted in anxiety and depression and manifested in his behaviour, abusing both drugs and alcohol. They had attended A&E around 40 times for his issues, and his mother said she had repeatedly raised concerns over his safeguarding, saying on one visit, "I could hear his screams. He was handcuffed to a trolley surrounded by police officers." Samuel's life in his last months can be summed up as mayhem, misunderstanding, trauma and heartbreak. She went on to say she questioned why Croydon Children's Mental Health Services weren't as worried as she was about her son. Samuel Howes' inquest is expected to last 3 weeks. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
The Met Police has launched a new vetting initiative as part of its ongoing efforts to remove the so-called bad apples from the force. Kath Okpata is outside New Scotland Yard for us now. Kath, what are the details?
So today the Metropolitan Police have completely revamped their vetting process, and they say they're the first UK force to do so. Now it helps to think of vetting as the process through which an officer can get their licence to operate, and under current procedures officers are vetted once every 10 years or 7 years if they are specialist officers. That's all set to change. Now, under these new guidelines, officers will have their vetting reviewed during the course of their career if one of the following things or all of the following things crop up. Let's say it's a misconduct hearing where a warning or reduction in rank has been issued, the conclusion of a criminal investigation, or when adverse information is flagged to the Met's Directorate of Professional Standards. Earlier today, I spoke to Commander James Harmon, and he said to me that Wayne Couzens, for example, would have been flagged under the new system after he was reported for indecent exposure. Now, this new set of standards has been named Operation Assure, and it's aptly named because it's all about reassuring the public that the Metropolitan Police isn't just filled with bad apples.
And what I think this does is address some of the public's concerns about policing right now, some of the concerns we've seen in the Met right now, and goes some way to putting things right and turning our organisation around. We've put extra resource into our professional standards department. We're doing intelligence checks against every single member of the workforce. We're designing new vetting processes. We've created a new public hotline, and. We are taking energetic steps to turn this around.
And after a series of scandals and apologies from the Met Police, it's hoped that this measure will help improve officers' trust in their colleagues and Londoners' trust in the Metropolitan Police.
OK, Kath, thank you very much. Thank you. Fiona Bruce has announced she's stepping down as Ambassador of Refuge after claims she trivialised domestic violence during a discussion about Stanley Johnson on Question Time. The former newsreader said she did not want her comments to create a distraction for the London domestic abuse charity, and she added that she was deeply sorry. Now it's deadline day for property developers across the country to sign legally binding contracts that commit them to pay to repair unsafe buildings. 6 weeks ago, Housing Minister Michael Gove gave them an ultimatum: sign the contract or face significant consequences. And action is needed now more than ever, with exclusive figures seen by ITV News revealing that almost 1,200 buildings in London alone are deemed so unsafe they require simultaneous evacuation. Bulletin. Rags Martel reports.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
From the outside, they look free. But this family in Clacton, East London, is actually trapped in the so-called cladding crisis.
We found out that the cladding on our flat didn't pass the safety tests, and we're now unable to rent it out or to sell it or to move. And there is no guarantee when the work will be done or if we're going to actually have to pay for it ourselves, which could end up with a bill of sort of £20,000 or £30,000 per flat.
The government is trying to help families like the Walkers. It's given developers a deadline to commit to making repairs to unsafe buildings like these. But progress is slow and lives are on hold.
At the moment, we feel like we've got no idea what's going to happen, when it's going to end, and how much we're going to have to pay for it.
But this cladding problem is everywhere. New figures obtained by ITV News show there are now 185 buildings in London that are deemed so unsafe they require simultaneous evacuation. That's the highest number it has ever been since Grenfell. Over in Tower Hamlets, the cladding is made of wood.
2 years ago, I discovered that my flat had dangerous cladding. Since then, it's been sleepless nights. We've been anxious about who's going to pay to fix the dangerous cladding and make our home safe again. But of course, we're still waiting for the money to come on the table. Nothing's been done about the cladding behind me, nor about the broader fire safety defects. And we're really stuck in a purgatory at the moment.
5 of the UK's biggest house builders have signed new deals with the government to ensure they fix cladding problems that were discovered after the Grenfell fire. But many smaller developers have not made any promises.
The developer of my block, we haven't heard from them. Who knows whether they have signed up? And the critical thing is this: if developers don't sign up to pay to remove dangerous cladding, who will?
The Home Builders Federation prides itself on being the voice of the building industry.
What we're asking for is for the Housing Secretary to come good on what he said he would do, which is to actually hold the construction products companies to task, those who manufactured the claddings and the insulations, and also to do more with regards to overseas developers. We don't see any evidence that attempts are being made to recover costs from anybody other than UK-based home builders.
The government's cladding deadline expires tomorrow, exactly 69 months after 72 people died in the tower. Rags Martel, ITV News.
Now, our next guest used to be a doctor but has swapped being on call for being on air. Dr. Yemisi Bokini is still putting her medical knowledge to good use. She's now the host of a podcast series which raises awareness about sickle cell anemia. It's called Sickle Cell Unboxed, and Yemisi is here now to tell us all about it. And I suppose what we should do is start by telling people who don't know exactly what sickle cell is.
Well, you know, sickle cell is the fastest growing genetic condition in the UK, and it's essentially caused when 2 copies of a mutated gene are inherited, one from either parent. And it essentially causes a disruption in the ability to sort of carry oxygen around the body, and that can lead to all sorts of symptoms, everything from pain to strokes and organ damage.
And the word sickle comes from the shape of those blood cells, or the misshape of those blood cells.
Exactly, and that's caused by the genetic mutation. So 2 genes being inherited. Many of us actually just have 1 copy and we don't generally have symptoms at all.
So we have the trait, but
yes.
not the... So why just mainly African and Caribbean people that suffer from this condition, or mainly, I should say?
Well, that's the misconception. So it is really predominantly African and Caribbean, but there's a lot of sickle cell in Arab countries as well as in India. There are a lot of, white Brits that have 1 copy of the gene and they're unaware. As I said, it's the fastest growing genetic condition in the UK, so it's something that I feel like everyone should pretty much be aware about.
And you'll be telling us about that on your podcast.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah.
And also about some of the myths that surround it. Tell us about some of those.
Exactly. So, historically, people with sickle cell had very, very short lifespan, but things have changed drastically. You have people who have sickle cell living well into old age, and, that's as a result of medical advances as well as, improved insight on how to treat the condition. And I feel like, on the podcast, we end with that element of hope where I discuss all the latest therapies, new treatments, evidence-based out there, and that's sort of to give an idea of where we're going in the future, that, it is treatable.
And of course, we need donors, blood donors to come forward. But I want to also ask you, I mean, you were a doctor and you're watching the doctors on strike today.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You
Briefly.
know, it's heartbreaking. It really is, because I know, you know, vast majority of my friends are junior doctors in the NHS. I know they don't want to be striking. But I also have seen many more leave the NHS just in the past few months, right? I think that's extremely worrying. That's very worrying. Yeah.
OK, well, thank you for that. Remind us, your podcast is the 5-series. And
Five-part series,
and it's available now?
Yes, Sickle Cell Unboxed, yes.
Lovely. Thank you, Yevisi. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Ronke.
Thank you. Now, we're staying with health for our next report as we go from a shortage of people giving blood to help sickle cell sufferers to a musical appeal for kidney donors. The Black Living Donor Choir is encouraging more people from the black community to consider living donation because of the long wait for a kidney from someone who's died. Charlie Frost reports.
We all need somebody to lean on.
For this Brixton choir, this song is about more than its melody. They've lived the message and been someone's strength in times of trouble. Each donating a kidney to their partner or relative when theirs were failing.
He went to get some tests and things like that, and then eventually one day they said to him, you know, you've got kidney failure, chronic kidney failure. It was like, it hit us for 6 because he had no idea what was wrong with him.
Vicky donated to her husband Wayne.
And actually it was the best thing that I've ever done. It was scary, but it was a good scary because at the end of the day, I look back and it's benefited him, my children, his family. It's had a ripple effect.
Now she's joined forces with other donors to raise their voices and raise awareness about the importance of living kidney donation, especially in the black community. According to charity Kidney Care UK, half of people who are on dialysis in London are black, despite black people making up 13% of London's population. While black people are 5 times more likely to develop kidney failure than other communities and 3 times more likely to need a kidney transplant. Della set up the Black Living Donor Choir last year.
Having surgery is difficult, but if you've got somebody within your family that needs a transplant, you can change their life, you can transform their life by becoming a living donor, and it's just an amazing thing to do.
But while donation is something they're well versed in, being in a choir is still fairly new.
It's enlightening and also it's just fun. I mean, we're doing it for fun, but also we're just doing it just to raise awareness as well. So
every person in this choir represents a life saved. They're hoping by celebrating their sacrifice through song, they'll encourage more people to join them. Charlie Frost, ITV News in Brixton.
Now, some of the biggest names in football are gathering in Chalk Farm tonight as the likes of Bukayo Saka, Ivan Toney and Harry Kane battle it out for the Premier League Player of the Year at the London Football Awards. Daniel Henry is there for us now. And Daniel, it looks like you've got some of London's legends with you there.
You're absolutely right. You join me on the red carpet where it's footballing royalty here. Stars, constellation of stars up and down London's Camden Roundhouse, and they're all here for the 9th edition of the London Football Awards. And there's so many prizes up for grabs tonight, and there are 2 that I can tell you about. One of them going to West Ham's Mark Noble. He's going to pick up the Outstanding Contribution to Football Award for his near 20-year career at the Hammers, captaining the club, coaching part of the club, going on to become a sporting director long after he stopped playing. And then there's also an award for England's Lionesses. Everyone remembers their incredible win in the Euros. Well, tonight, their impact off the field, that's what's being reflected tonight as they pick up the Power of Football Award. And I'm joined now by 2 gentlemen who know a bit about the power of football in Carlton Cole and Marlon Harewood. Gentlemen, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, very, very well,
nice
very
to
well.
See you here, looking dashing.
Hey, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. Yeah, so tell me, I mean, Mark Noble, you used to play with him, both of you did. He's picking up the Outstanding Contribution to Football Awards. Can you believe it?
Not really, no. But listen, Nobes has been unbelievable servant for West Ham. Now, deservedly so, he's a sporting director of the club. So he just deserves everything and all the accolades. You don't spend that much time at one football club and not be a great player, you know, and playing at the top level in the Premier League. So well done to him for contribution to football, coming from London as well.
Absolutely. And Marlon, you were there with his debut, right?
No. Obviously, I was just talking to a few of the other people about it and seeing this lad grow up to be the statue of a captain, leader. It's phenomenal. I'm so proud of him and pleased for him because it was this little cheeky little lad coming from, obviously he grew up supporting West Ham and how he's gone on in his career. It's phenomenal. He deserves everything that he gets.
And I suppose off the field this week, there've been question marks about what's been happening with Gary Lineker and Match of the Day and all of that. You've appeared on Match of the Day many times, Carl. I mean, what do you think about the end result now?
Listen, it's one of those ones. You got to pick a side sometimes. And I feel that the players, the ex-players, the ex-pros, Alex Scott is here tonight. Gary Lineker, Ian Wright, Alan Shearer, they backed Gary. Even though he's got a view on a certain subject, you've got to always feel that he was at that point in his life where he feels that he had to have a voice and say what he wanted to say, and he used Twitter in that way. But then he's still got a responsibility as well. So
absolutely,
it depends what side. It depends what side you agree with. But I feel that the right thing was done and he's been reinstated.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for your thoughts, gentlemen. Lovely to see you both at the London Football Awards in Camden.
Daniel, thank you. For hundreds of years, church bells have rung out across the country to celebrate special occasions like the King's coronation later this year. But the number of bell ringers has dwindled over the past decade. So now it's hoped a new Ring for the King campaign can revitalise the tradition. Sally Williams reports.
Well, there's a right old ding-dong going on at the top of this tower, as you can probably hear, and I've been offered ringside seats. But first, I've got to get up there.
Oh, never mind tugging the bells. You need a bit of a puff to get up these stairs. Oh, but look at
this. Bell ringing is many things, but did you know it has the potential to be romantic too?
Chris, did you meet Caroline ringing?
Yes, we met in the Belfry, so...
No, Chris, that's so romantic. Tell me the whole story.
Well, you end up ringing together, and of course romance blossoms afterwards.
Yeah, you went up single and came down taken.
That's right.
Bell ringing goes back hundreds of years, but I'm told it hasn't always been religious.
I mean, there's a lot of drinking and smoking in belfries, and the church authorities got very annoyed about this. So in the middle of the 19th century, we had what we call the Belfry Reform movement.
Oh, wow. And that was the end of the boozing and smoking.
Definitely so.
After a little break, Stephen bravely agreed to teach me.
And one of my favourite things about this is that this is called the Sally.
It is. Red, white and blue fluffy thing.
Soft and squidgy.
Yeah. So you've got a tail end in your hands.
Yeah, I've got a tail end.
Keep your hands on that.
Keep my hands on the tail end.
When I pull,
and you pull the Sally. Sorry, I just like the language.
Let it go, Sal, although not the rope. Now, it's fair to say I wasn't a natural.
Now bring it down. No, OK. Move your hands up the rope a bit.
But fairly soon we had a rhythm going.
Have you got enough people for the King's coronation then?
Yeah, we have. Here we have. We've done a lot of recruitment and training over recent years, and we've got enough. But there are other towers around here that haven't.
So people, they do need more ringers.
They certainly do need more ringers, yes.
Yeah.
It's thought 8,000 bells across the country could be silent for the coronation, so the ringers here fully recommend trying it out.
Definitely have a go. It is great fun, but be prepared to put the hours in it.
Is it physically quite hard work?
Walking up the stairs, yeah.
Walking up to the tower, yeah, that is quite exhausting.
All Hallows in Richmond will join in the ringing for the King's coronation and perhaps put a little spring in the step of those who love to listen.
Looks like fun. It looks like there could be more snow as well. Here's Sally.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a good day. I have to say I'm glad I wasn't this little wren. Gosh, but that had its feathers ruffled today with the wind we had outside. We have got tonight and tomorrow a little bit of rain, maybe some wintry flurries, but they're mostly confined to higher ground and to the north of our part of the world. We've also got some nice sunshine for you tomorrow, but it is going to feel a little bit chillier. If we take a look at the air mass chart, you can see that we have had things a touch milder. We're going to draw in slightly more northerly air tomorrow, so that's why it's going to be a bit colder. But as we go towards the second half of the week, that warmer, slightly warmer, milder air returns, but things will be a little bit unsettled on the weather front as well. So let's take a little look at tonight. So those showers from earlier drying up, but then we've got a next band of rain coming through later on in the evening, overnight. Then it becomes dry again, and then you can see by tomorrow morning from the north we've got further bit of rain moving in, and that's where we could possibly get, like I said, a little bit of snow and sleet, but mostly to the north and on that higher ground, as I mentioned. It's going to be quite cold tomorrow morning and overnight. There's temperatures down to the low single figures and a little bit grey and damp as we start the day with that front sinking south, but behind it some lovely sunshine for you. A nice bright day to enjoy. A little bit breezy still though, and those temperatures colder than today, highs of only 7 to 10, so you might notice a little bit of a change, but we have got the sunshine. Then into the evening we've got the next bit of rain heading our way, and again it could be a little bit of sleet and snow on that, but it is fizzling out as it sinks south, and it looks drier as we move into Wednesday, then a bit more unsettled with some rain at times on Thursday, but you can see our temperatures just nudging their way up a bit. Very welcome they are too. See you later. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Finally, if your fear of spiders is ruining your life, London Zoo may be able to help. To celebrate 30 years of their Friendly Spider programme, the zoo are looking for 30 of the capital's most terrified arachnophobes to face their fears at a special event this summer. The programme has helped more than 5,000 people so far and claims to have a 99% success rate at turning you from a bug squisher into a spider lover in just 4 hours. For all the details on how to apply, head to our website, itv.com/London. Right, it's time for us to creep off. Mary will be here next with the ITV Evening News, but from me and the rest of the London team, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.